Hello everyone, welcome to Digital Asset News. We take the top stories of cryptocurrency and digital assets and break them down into bite-sized pieces. So today let's get right into it. 4 spicy stories to go over. The first part is Poloniex axes Digibyte after founder criticized Tron on Twitter. Unbelievable. Also, the European Central Bank, or ECB, is ready to launch its own digital euro to improve payments, and why this is a great thing. On top of that, the French bank to start testing its own digital asset early next year, and why this article is very important as to why it's going to help out the cryptocurrency and digital asset market, and I'll get to that in a second. And lastly, our friend Peter Schiff predicts cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and everything is going to crash to the ground, and why I believe that one of these statements that he talks about is absolutely correct. So let's get into it. First up, the ECB, or European Central Bank, ready to launch its digital euro to improve payments. So it states the ECB is considering issuing its own digital euro if the private sector fails to guarantee a convenient changeover for cross-border payments. Now, as I go through this article, I want you to think in your mind, first of all, what are they talking about? Why are they stating that there's no other option? And think about the cryptocurrency and digital asset that could easily take the place of what they're talking about. And whatever it is that you're thinking, do me a favor, comment below about what digital asset or cryptocurrency could easily do this. Moving forward, the European Central Bank has joined the group of several central banks who wish to issue their digital currency, a tool known as Central Bank Digital Currency, or CBDC. I think we're going to hear a lot of this acronym, this mnemonic, moving forward. I didn't know that actually existed, the CBDC, but as time goes on, I expect every major country and their central banks to start to talk about or to actually issue their own digital currency, and why this is a great thing. Moving forward, it states the goal is to create a payment system that is fast, secure, and reliable, while also increasing Euro's trust. However, it remains to be seen how this solution can be created. Central banks, or government agencies in general, have little technical knowledge, and the production of such a solution could be beyond their reach. And this really just goes to stay in your lane. Whatever you're good at, just do that. Central banks, I believe, were a value for decades. We were able to store our money there. We didn't have to put it underneath our mattress and worry about somebody stealing it. There are FDIC insured deposits up to $100,000 for every one of your bank accounts. So it was a good thing in the past, but moving forward, this becomes obsolete. And you can think of a lot of different things that become obsolete as time has gone on. Look at Netflix. Pretty great option. Does anybody go to Blockbuster? No, because they're not around. So as time moves forward, I believe central banks are just a dying breed. But going on, and this is the crux of the article, it talks about the most obvious path would be to support private companies that try to develop this new payment infrastructure. Again, I don't know which digital currency you're thinking about, but I have my own in my back of my head. I believe XRP is a great bridge currency. They are working with regulators throughout the world, the World Bank, the IMF, and they're talking to the right people. I believe that as time goes on, they will be that integral part of bridging everybody together. But this next sentence, according to the ECB, this initiative should satisfy 5 key objectives: full pan-European reach and seamless customer experience, convenience and cost efficiency, safety and security, European identity and governance, and, in the long run, global acceptance. So if you can think about what the banks have done and how the banks are handling different situations presently, do the banks, the centralized banks, take care of all of those different types criteria? Well, if you're like me, and you've been around for a while, you know that the banks don't have a stellar record. And the problem with these centralized banks is that they're becoming too big, they've been around for too long, and they are becoming the villain. And we, moving forward, need to seriously think about getting rid of them because they are not servicing the people like they should. And coming back to the article, it states the People's Bank of China, the Rwandan Central Bank, the Central Bank of Bahamas, the Bank of Japan, and many others are also evaluating this possibility. So just expect it. In 2020, I believe 2019 was a pretty bear market, and there was a lot of different issues that came up, but it laid the infrastructure for the bull run that we're going to see in May 2020 and beyond. Moving into the first quarter, second quarter of 2020, I believe we're going to see each country and their respective centralized banks talking about digitalized currencies, cross-border payments and remittance, and all types of things that are going to lead them to cryptocurrency and digital assets. It's my belief. I think it's what's going to happen, but we will see. Before we move on to the next story, I'd like to ask you guys for a favor. If you could, just hit the like button if you like stories like this. It helps the channel and it's greatly appreciated. And now let's move on to the next one, which is our most concerning article. And it talks about Poloniex axes Digibyte after founder criticized Tron. Unbelievable. This is a quick article, but it has huge ramifications. And in the first sentence it states, Poloniex reacted to a Twitter thread by Digibyte co-founder Jared Tate, immediately announcing a pending delisting of Digibyte. And it goes on to state that Jared Tate in his Twitter, at Jared C. Tate, stated, by not qualified, I'm assuming that the Poloniex exchange attacked or stated something about Digibyte, saying that it's not qualified. But he states, by not qualified, you mean hashtag Digibyte is truly decentralized, was never an ICO, and isn't 100% pre-mined. Noted, hashtag Poloniex is the new scammer's paradise. The less Digibyte in the possession of the Tron con job, the better. That was pretty good. And the exchange tweeted back this, we don't own any US customers' data, as all of them are preserved by Circle. By the way, after careful review, we decided Digibyte is not qualified for our listing standard. We will delist Digibyte soon, details to be announced. And this was a direct response to Jared Tate. So as I'm looking at this, the whole reason that we got into cryptocurrency and digital assets is because it is truly decentralized. It's supposed to be owned by the people, and there's supposed to be little to none regulation, essentially. Now, moving forward, we're going to need regulation by government, but this is not the regulation we need. This is not the type of action that we need from an exchange. An exchange is only supposed to be there to allow us to purchase and trade different digital currencies and or digital assets and cryptocurrencies. They are not there to sway the opinion of the investors themselves, and it's very concerning. And of course, this was in response to my last video I made yesterday, which talked about how Poloniex sent out a tweet which stated, let's buy Tron. This was in a deleted tweet uncovered by a Twitter bot. Poloniex, the exchange itself, told everyone to buy Tron. Now, just like this channel, it is not financial advice. It is for entertainment purposes only. I think a exchange stating to buy a specific cryptocurrency or digital asset opens itself to huge liabilities and lawsuits, because that is essentially investment advice. As we delved into this story, we talked about, well, why would Poloniex do that? That is because Justin Sun, who the founder of Tron, is a huge investor into Poloniex. I think he put in $100 million. So by that, you can see why exactly Digibyte is now unlisted. So that is censorship at its highest form. You cannot do that. You cannot have a exchange dictate exactly what people should or should not buy or influence their opinion whatsoever. So it's for that reason that if you're like me and you believe that is dishonest, that is not the way that cryptocurrency and digital assets are the direction it's supposed to go, I'm calling for an outright ban of Poloniex. I don't know anybody who uses Poloniex. Some people do, but I hope it fades away and wilts and does not make it. And especially for that reason, because it is not the reason that we all got into this space. Next up, and this is my favorite article, the French bank to start testing its own digital asset early next year. Now, when I first started hearing about these different things, about these digital or these central banks, as they were starting to get into their own digital assets, creating their own stable coins, I was worried because I thought, oh no, that's what Bitcoin does. So I would look at this in the past and get quite worried and go, wow, what's going to happen? Is this all going to fall apart? But that is until I started to listen to the Digital Asset Investor. If you guys don't know him, he's got a great channel. He's super positive about cryptocurrency and digital assets, and he is a big XRP proponent. So if you're ever down in the dumps, like sometimes we all get when we look at the market, I highly recommend you pick up his channel and listen to his videos. Anyhow, moving on. This is what the actual article states, and it's broken down into 3 parts. So the Central Bank of France is getting ready to start testing its own cryptocurrency next year. Great news. The announcement was revealed by the bank's governor. The Bank of France now has blueprints, and we'll get to that in a second, so it can create its own central bank digital currency. So this announcement was revealed by François Villeroy-Viguelhau, the bank's governor, earlier this week. Francois stated in a speech that the bigger players in the space of payments are where the center of gravity is at. Now again, as I go through this article, think to yourself, what cryptocurrency or digital asset could easily take this place? Furthermore, it states because these big companies are based in other areas, the introduction of players outside of the banking sector could threaten the overall power of Europe. Now this goes back to a couple of videos I did before, and I talked about central banks and how they are going to fight tooth and nail to not allow cryptocurrency and digital assets to take over. Because once they take over, that is it. That is the end game. Central banks have power over us because they have our money. And where they have our money, everything flows from that. So if they lose this ability to dictate how we make payments, cross-border payments, where we store our money, how we use our money, they are going to win. Now again, central banks are obsolete. I just believe it. This is the new evolution. This is the way it's going to go. As time moves forward, you're going to see more and more central banks, more and more countries make their own digital assets. But here's the problem. If you have a digital asset in Spain, a central bank digital asset in Canada, America, Russia, China, those blockchains need to talk to each other in some way, shape, or form. And there's only one way really to do it. You're going to need a bridge currency. The bridge currency, in my opinion, is XRP. Now, there could be other digital assets or cryptocurrency that could definitely take that place or might be able to take that place. However, like I always talk about, XRP is the one working behind the scenes with the World Bank, the IMF, regulators, and they're getting their positions ready, their foot in the door to go, look, we can step in right now, solve your problem, make things easier, just let us do it. So we will see what happens. Again, it could be something else, but XRP seems to have that first mover advantage of doing the right things and talking to the right people. Now, do you believe that central banks will totally go away tomorrow and fiat will go away? No, I don't believe that's going to happen anytime soon. So if I had to hedge my bet, I know Bitcoin maximalists will say to you, okay, well, the ideal world is to get rid of all banks, get rid of all fiat, and we'll just use this digital currency. And that may happen in time. But right now, the majority of the people are non-adopters. And they need something that bridges them from the old world to the new world. And I think this is it. So now, for a time, this is going to happen. And I think later on, one or two things could happen. Either Bitcoin's going to take over, or another asset's going to take over, something that's is going to be like a second or third generation type of cryptocurrency. But for right now, there is this thing called the grandma test. And if your grandma can't use it, then it's not going to be adopted. Bitcoin is hard to understand for the layman. It is difficult to use for all these different your public keys and how that all works. So if your grandma can't use it, it's not going to be adopted quickly. So I know the people out there are shouting at their screens going, that's ridiculous. But that's just how it is. So right now, this is how I see it, how I think things are going to go down. Anyhow, off of my rant. So it states here, the bank's governor further went on to cite that the leading cryptocurrency, which perhaps has no real value, was the original asset of its kind before the advent of stablecoins. Nevertheless, despite making cross-border payments significantly more efficient and easy, the second generation of these kinds of assets still have financial and political risk posed above them. So we are seeing right now that with the cooperation or the merger, what's the word I'm looking for? The partnership. The partnership between MoneyGram and XRP, it is exploding. It is doing extremely well for cross-border payments and remittance. So right now, if you look at the financial, it says it still has financial risks. There's no risks. There's no risk for using XRP. First of all, it's almost instantaneous. It takes 1 to 3 seconds. There's no slippage. The volatility falls off because it takes so few time. Look, if you are transferring money right now via Western Union, which we have to do for family in Mexico, it's a nightmare because it's going to could take 3 days, could take 5 days, and the fees are outrageous. So if you use XRP for cross-border payments, it's like fractions of a penny. It's super cheap. So right there, the financial risks are low. The political risks, yeah, it's big because the politics or the ability for the central banks to control their power in a centralized fashion is severely at risk. By going over to XRP and allowing these types of things or other digital currencies or cryptocurrencies, digital assets, yes, they are losing their foothold. So I can see why they say it would be a risk for them. Moving forward, the governor states, of course, as central banks and supervisors, there is no question of us standing by and letting this change happen unchecked. We have to remain fully committed to our dual objective, safeguarding confidence and supporting innovation. I think if you would have been honest and just said that our dual objective is to retain power and retain control, I would have believed that a little bit more than safeguarding confidence and supporting innovation. The banks don't support innovation. How long have they been using cross-border payments like Western Union? For decades, and it sucks. In this day and age, when I can send an email to anybody in the world, when I can do a video conference with students in other countries, it's instantaneous, but the fastest way to send $10,000 to China or to Japan would be to actually get on a plane, fly 16 hours, and get there. That is ridiculous. That's not innovation. That's stagnation. So moving on, it states the Bank of France now has blueprints, and I was wondering to myself, what the heck are they talking about with blueprints? And he states additional skills will be recruited to strengthen its expertise, and with the help of our lab, the DIP will work with industry innovators from the private sector. I wonder who that could be. We want to start running experiments rapidly, and we'll launch a call for projects before the end of the first quarter of 2020. So again, as I said before, I believe 2020 is going to be the year where stablecoins, centralized banks are going to make their own cryptocurrencies and own stablecoins and try to talk to each other. And we'll see how it all works out. But I got to tell you, this is not financial advice. It's for entertainment purposes only. But right now is the time to get into this space because next year I believe it will definitely explode because we're going to go one way or the other. Either we're going to go in the way of some type of bridge currency or Bitcoin will take over because of all the institutions that are getting in right now and FOMO will take effect. Look for that to happen on May 2020 and after, maybe a year after, as people start to FOMO in. All right, moving on. My favorite guy, Peter Schiff. This guy, he is, I do digital marketing. I do marketing for my companies. I have an online program which helps nursing students pass their clinical exam. I also run a charity organization, a 501(c)(3) with my wife, and I do all the marketing for that. And I will tell you this, marketing is pretty easy. What you have to do is you have to talk to the customer, and you have to really dig into their emotions. People buy and people do things not on logic, but on emotions. There's really two emotions that you use in marketing. And the first one is pleasure, and the next one is fear. And if we use those two things, we can move a lot of products and do types of things. It's just the way it is. So with Schiff, I look at him and I just see him as a great marketer because what he's doing is he uses fear time and time and time again. And it's out of the two, pleasure and pain, fear or pain is the one that is the most motivational because people, when they sense and they use their reptilian brain and their fight or flight senses, they're like, look, if this is going to hurt me or cause me discomfort, I'm going to move away from it and do whatever this person is telling me to do because that's what works for me. So Peter Schiff is always talking about how the economy is going to collapse, how the Fed is going to raise the rates or drop the rates or negative interest rates, and it's going to be awful and everything's going to go down the tubes, and you have to invest in gold right now because it's the only option for you, or else it'll be hell on earth. So with Schiff, here he is again, and he talks about Bitcoin. This is from the pump yesterday. I think Bitcoin went up like $500 in a matter of minutes, but then it went back down. And he states Bitcoin pump and dumpers are losing their mojo. They managed to pump the price by $550 in 1 minute, which is a 7.5% spike, yet the dump reversed the entire pump with 8% drop in just 7 or 8 hours. If Bitcoin pumpers can no longer sucker in new buyers, the game is over. Look out below. That's a good one. That's a good one, Pete. You have to look at why somebody does this. You have to look at the reason why they state things, the reason why they're moving people into certain directions. Now, here with Digital Asset News, I am biased as well. Here are my holdings. I am a big believer in Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, as you can see clearly on my chart, EOS, Cardano, and Chainlink. These are my 6. So when I start talking about these things, just know that yes, I have bias, but I have facts behind it as to why I believe these will all go up. So when I'm talking about it, of course that's why. When Peter Schiff is talking about all these different negative aspects, he's pushing people into gold, and it's worked pretty well for him. I think he's pretty good. He's done pretty good for himself as far as pushing gold out there. But there's one comment that he made that makes a lot of sense, and it's correct. And he says, whales are in heavy control of this market or the market. And it's true. This is such a small space. We are the 1%ers essentially that are investing into this space right now. We're so early adopters. So with such a small group of people, it's easy for whales to come in and just push things around and use fear and use that reptilian brain, that fight or flight, to get people to do exactly what they want. And that's why I believe TA doesn't work in this market, because there are whales and sentiment and emotions that really play more into it than the technical, logical side. So just be careful. But Peter Schiff, you have to know that this guy is also, he is wrong. He's wrong a lot, but that's just the name of the game. So there was this one article I found, and you can find many, but this is back in 2017. And it goes to talk about that Schiff is a relentless critic of Fed policy. This is talking about the U.S. Federal Reserve, which is our central bank here in America. And for years has suggested the U.S. dollar was on the verge of an outright crash, encouraging investors to buy bullion or gold. And so this is in 2017. They were saying that he had been talking about this for years and years and years. I have a friend. He believes the world's coming to an end. And he believed this back in 2012. So if he just keeps on that path, world's going to end. 2013, world's going to end, world's going to end. Now in 2050 or something like that, comet hits the Earth. He's like, see, I told you. Bears can sit back and they can just say, Bitcoin's going to fall. Bitcoin's going to fall. Bitcoin's going to fall. And then when it eventually falls, because that's what happens, what goes up must come down. They're like, look at me. I'm a genius. You're not a genius. You're not a genius. You're just some sucker who stood in the background and just play the odds and go, yeah, it's going to fall. Well, duh. Of course, that's how it works. Moving forward, Schiff has long maintained that the Fed cannot continue to raise interest rates without sparking a major market crash, and urge investors to instead buy gold. Again, don't look at what people say. Look at what they're doing behind the scenes. This guy's a huge investor in gold. His whole business is based on gold. His job and his motivation is to get people to buy gold. So of course he's going to say that. And the base of the whole article comes down to this. That made nations accuse him of trying to scare investors into buying the commodity for his own benefits. Well, of course. And what tactics work the best? Negative. That's why when you turn on the news, there's not a lot of positive news stories out there, even though there is things that go on in the world. What gets the attention, what gets the eyeballs, what gets the ratings is negativity. So on this channel, we try to give you the positive part of cryptocurrency and digital assets, and we hope you like it. If you like those stories and you want to hear more of those on a daily basis, would humbly request you subscribe to the channel. We'll give you daily information of the cryptocurrency and digital asset space and break it down to bite-sized pieces so you don't have to. Thanks for listening to my rants and the news in general, and have a great one. See you on the next video.